Hi guys, so today's video is going to be a ranking of 15 very significant scenes in the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson. If you have not read through Oathbringer, please don't keep watching. I really don't want you to get spoiled. Before we get started, want you to let me know how you're going to rank these, so that way at the end, once I've revealed my ranking, we can kind of compare and contrast. There are, of course, so many more than just 15 great scenes in this series, but I recruited all of you to help me out over on my Instagram stories. I asked you to let me know some of your favorite scenes, and these were the ones that I found came up the most often, as well as being some of my favorites as well. I had a really hard time ranking these. I definitely think from one day to the next, I probably would change my mind, but I'm gonna start in the middle and then work my way bottom to top, bottom to top, bottom to top, because that way you'll see my very bottom one and my very top one. I think it's just more fun than starting straight at the bottom and going up, or straight at the top and going down. For me, in the number 8 spot, I decided that when Kaladin goes back home, all of these scenes are great for various different reasons, but I just decided that this one seemed more like a middle of the list kind of a scene, because I found that scene to have so many emotional moments, so many satisfying moments. When he tells off Rashon, I was so pleased by that. When he gets to see his parents again, when he finds out he has a baby brother, oh my gosh, so emotional. However, I also feel like that was one of the best Kaladin moments in Oathbringer, and then weirdly, the fact that he has a baby brother is almost forgettable. In the number 9 spot, we have another Kaladin-themed scene, and that would be when Tien dies. This scene to me was so tragic, and this is definitely one that I might move up depending on my mood and the day, and if I freshly reread it. But I think because you know for so long that, Tien, something happened, so it's not as shocking. Now going back up to the number 7 spot, we have another death, which would be the Sadeas one, the Sadeas murder. This one I had to rank a little on the higher end. These are all great. Again, they're all such great scenes, but this one for me, and I think for a lot of other people, was so unexpected. And I loved that about this scene. I found Sadeas to be that character that you love to hate. You love to hate that guy. And then he gets stabbed in the face. Going back down now to the number 10 spot, I thought I would have put this scene a lot higher, and that would be when Kaladin is thinking about ending his life and Syl comes to him. It is such a very tender, sad, raw scene, and it's very emotional. But at this point, we don't know Kaladin that well. We're only getting to know him, and we're seeing him at the bottom, but we haven't spent all this time getting to know him. In the number 6 spot, this might surprise some people because I think this is going to be higher for a lot of you, but I have in the 6th spot the honor is dead, but I'll see what I can do. This is such a great scene. It's iconic. I feel like it has created some amazing artwork also, and it's that moment where finally freaking Adolin and Kaladin can stop acting like children and then do something working together. It's such a fantastic scene, so high energy, and then Renarin coming in, you're like, no, Renarin, get out of there. Just the whole scene is so great. That line is great. So many emotions in that moment. But for me, while I love that scene, I think it's smaller scale to some of the other scenes that I have up a little higher. In the number 11 spot, we have the date between Shallan and Adolin and their conversation. And that scene is definitely really funny. But for me, sometimes funny can rank up really high. I tend to find myself, I feel the heavy emotions more than the funny is great. And if you can have a combination of both, that's amazing. But this particular scene, I feel like obviously was very lighthearted and silly. It wasn't filled with lots of depth. And also that part of that scene is the best part, because the rest of the time, I can't stand Shallan and Adolin together at all. On the flip side, I didn't do this intentionally, it just kind of worked out. In the number 5 spot, we have the Kaladin and Shallan chasm scene. And this particular scene, I mentioned for the honor is dead, but I'll see what I can do, obviously being a very pivotal moment for Kaladin and Adolin. This is that same thing for Kaladin and Shallan, and I think because Shallan is a more prominent figure in the Stormlight Archive than Adolin. Having her and Kaladin's worlds collide in this scene gave it a little more weight than The Honor is Dead, although it doesn't have quite the same action element to it. It's not quite as satisfying, but it's so emotional, and the way that they're able to open up about their pasts to one another. The number 12 spot is the "You Cannot Have My Pain" with Dalinar. I know that this scene is really cool, and a lot of people love this. A lot of people love that quote. They love that moment for Dalinar. I don't care about Dalinar as much. The number 4 spot was honestly kind of a surprise for me, but when I thought about it, I was like, yeah, this feels good here. And that's the Elhokar death in Oathbringer. That scene, first off, the literal Elhokar dying, holding his child, almost about to say the words. It's just the timing of it is so heartbreaking, and on top of that, it's in the middle of this battle, and Kaladin freezes and locks up, and he's just seeing all these people that he cares about and wants to help, and he sees them all fighting and killing each other, and the devastation on his end, the devastation of the scene itself, the effects of it after, that scene is just, honestly, that scene to me is one of the best parts, not only of Oathbringer, but just the series. It's just freaking Sanderson. Elhokar was so annoying. He was so obnoxious in the first book, especially when you listen to the audiobook narrator, the voice that he gives Elhokar. He's always like, meh, about everything. And he's so obnoxious, and he's all paranoid all the time, kind of understandably. But he's just so frustrating. And then Sanderson makes you really start to like him. As soon as I started to like him, I was like, this boy's gonna die, isn't he? I remember just being so frustrated because I'm like, dang it, he's gonna die. But then he couldn't just kill him. He had to kill him in the most tragic way with him about to say, I'm just repeating myself now. That scene is so sad. In the number 13 spot, and this feels so inappropriate after just listing the number 4 spot, but in the number 13 spot, I have Dalinar busting in and being like, Elhokar, I'm dating your mom, which feels so weird to say after being like, Elhokar dying with his son in his arms. But that scene was also quite satisfying when Dalinar, you're like, finally, because Elhokar was so annoying in that first book, and that whole part where he's like, I'm seeing your mom, you need to man up, this is how things are gonna go down. That whole scene, so satisfying. However, it was satisfying in that it was something you've been wanting and craving throughout the book. You just want Elhokar to get told off, but it only goes so far. It's not got the same depth. In the number 3 spot, this is where we get into the really, the Elhokar death is a heavy hitter, but like the really try not to cry scenes. Dalinar giving up his shardblade for the bridgemen. Oh my gosh, that scene is amazing in one that it's so symbolic. It's not just the literal giving up of something that is worth so much and is so powerful, but what it means for the bridgemen, what it means for Kaladin. Oh my gosh, I'm like trying not to get choked up just thinking about it. That scene, there's not much more to say. It's just kind of unexpected, but at the same time, you're like, that is the honorable thing to do, and Dalinar is trying to be honorable, and Kaladin deserves once for like a light eyes person with that much power to have his back, especially after everything they gave up to save him. So for Dalinar to do that, like the right thing, it's the right thing to do, but it's still also such a noble, amazing gesture. Ugh. So good. In the number 14 spot, we have the pattern mating scene. It's cute. It's funny. I don't think anybody mentioned, there were a lot of replies on my Instagram stories when I asked you your favorite scenes, and I don't remember if anybody mentioned when Syl is talking to Kaladin being like, I've seen what people do in the bedroom, and Kaladin's like, stop, that's weird. I don't think anybody mentioned that scene, but I think I like that scene maybe even more than the Shallan and Adolin being supervised by Pattern. That part is also cute and funny, and Pattern is so silly, but I don't know. I just don't, it's funny. That's the thing. It's funny, it's amusing, but it's not, the the other scenes. All right, the second one, I had the hardest time. I have always felt like this is one of my favorite scenes of the Stormlight Archive series. So I thought I was going to put this at number 1, but I didn't. It's in the second place spot. And that would be the skies are mine scene from Words of Radiance. Basically that whole battle between Kaladin and Szeth. You've been leading up to it. It's like the battle of the giants, you know, like these two amazing forces clashing. It's such an amazing scene, so action-packed. There's so many other things going on. You get to the end of Way of Kings, and you're like, there's no way that ends of Words of Radiance and Oathbringer can possibly compete. And then you read the end of Words of Radiance, and you're like, never mind, it totally can, and this is so epic, and you've been building to it. And Kaladin just finally getting his powers back, and then, like, conquering the skies, essentially. That scene is so good, and it's, like, just in time because he saves Dalinar. So good. I thought it would be my number 1 spot, but there's another one that is just a little bit better for me. In the number 15 spot, something had to be at the bottom, and that would be the boots scene between Kaladin and Shallan. This is, I think, a fan favorite between the two of them because of the banter, but I just don't like this scene as much, I feel like, as a lot of the fandom does. It's fine, but I also remember that scene being, like, amused, but then also being like, wait, we're finally having Shallan catch up to the other characters, and it's such, like, a weird, goofy introduction of her to Kaladin, which is kind of cutesy and funny, but I'm like, but wait, can she just, like, go to the war camp now? Now, for the number 1 scene for me, and that would be Kaladin and Bridge 4 going back. I did not realize how much I liked that scene until, I mean, I knew I liked the scene, but I didn't realize how much until one day I was telling my mom about Way of Kings. She couldn't care less, but I was telling her, like, the whole plot, and I was telling her about this feud between Dalinar and Sadeas and how Sadeas betrayed them and left them to die, and they're looking at dying. Death is coming to them. Adolin decides he's going to face it honorably by his father's side. They're resigned to death. And then Kaladin and the Bridgemen have no reason to go back other than because there's a chance. You know, they're like, we're probably all going to die, but we need to try. And just these men who have had, like, nothing to live for, going back to save these people who, in Kaladin's mind, probably couldn't care less about them, is probably never going to really acknowledge what that gesture is, and them going back to save them. I was telling my mom about the scene, and I, like, almost started crying, because I'm like, and then they go back, and I was, like, getting all emotional. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know, that scene, like, I know Dalinar giving up for them, that whole thing is also an amazing scene, because it blows Kaladin's mind, and the Bridgemen, you're like, yay for them after, like, having the worst situation. It's such an underdog story, but they're still willing to sacrifice, likely their lives, everything. That's all they have is their lives and the camaraderie, and they're all willing to go back. Oh, it's just the best. It's the best. It's one of the reasons that Way of Kings is still number 1 for me out of the first 3 books. That scene, it gets me. That's it for ranking 15 of some of the greatest scenes in the Stormlight Archive. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all later.